Autopsy results are in for Chicago lottery teacher who was poisoned after he won.
Winning the lottery doesn't just test your luck, it tests who's really around you. The truth is, most lottery winners don't lose their money because they're bad with numbers. They lose it because somewhere along the way, they trusted the wrong person, a family member, a new friend, an advisor, even a stranger who suddenly showed up being extra nice. Here's the part that makes these stories so unsettling. In almost every case, the danger didn't come from a total stranger with bad intentions from day one. It came from someone who worked their way in slowly, someone the winner had every normal reason to trust. That's what makes protecting yourself after a big win so much harder than it sounds. Here are 10 real stories that prove exactly that. 1. Abraham Shakespeare. In 2006, Abraham Shakespeare won $30 million in the Florida lottery. He was known as a kind, generous, and trusting man, and it didn't take long for people to notice that. A woman named D.D. Moore approached him, claiming she wanted to write a book about his life story. Slowly, she got closer and closer to him, gained his trust completely, and eventually took control of a large part of his money. In 2009, Abraham suddenly disappeared. His body was later found buried under a concrete slab. Moore was arrested and convicted of his murder. His story is one of the most tragic reminders that trusting the wrong person can cost far more than money. 2. William Bud Post. Bud Post won $16.2 million in Pennsylvania back in 1988. He believed his own family would be genuinely happy for him. Instead, one of his brothers hired someone to try and kill him, hoping to inherit a share of the winnings. His old landlord sued him for a portion of the prize. Other relatives convinced him to put money into business ideas that failed one after another. Within just a single year, Bud found himself $1 million in debt. He later said that winning the lottery turned the people closest to him against him. 3. Jack Whitaker. Jack Whitaker won $314.9 million in West Virginia in 2002. At the time, it was one of the largest single-ticket jackpots in history. He genuinely wanted to help people, and unfortunately, a lot of people took advantage of that kindness. He was robbed more than once by people who had gotten close to him specifically because of the money. Cash he gave to his own granddaughter ended up funding a lifestyle that contributed to her tragic death. Jack later admitted, in his own words, that winning the lottery was the worst thing that ever happened to him. 4. Uruj Khan. Uruj Khan won $1 million on an Illinois scratch-off ticket in 2012. Just weeks after collecting his prize, he suddenly died. An investigation later revealed that he had been poisoned. A family member was looked into as part of the investigation, although the case was never fully solved or officially closed with charges. His story remains a chilling reminder that sudden money can sometimes bring danger from the very people closest to you. 5. Billy Bob Harrell Jr. Billy Bob won $31 million in the Texas lottery in 1997. He was a generous man who wanted to support his church, his family, and his friends, and he trusted the people around him with that generosity almost completely. Constant requests for money, combined with financial advice that didn't serve him well, drained his winnings much faster than anyone expected. Just a couple of years later, the emotional weight of it all became too much for him to carry, and he tragically took his own life. His story is often shared as a warning about just how heavy the emotional side of sudden wealth can be, especially without the right people and the right support system around you. 6. Michael Carroll. Michael Carroll won around $15 million in the UK National Lottery in 2002. He was young at the time, and almost overnight he found himself surrounded by so-called friends who encouraged him to spend without thinking twice. Within just a few years, nearly all of the money was gone, spent on parties, gifts for people who had barely known him before he won, and lifestyle choices pushed on him by people who clearly didn't have his best interests at heart. He later admitted publicly that surrounding himself with the wrong crowd was, by far, his biggest mistake. 7. Callie Rogers. Callie Rogers won about $3 million in the UK at just 16 years old, making her one of the youngest lottery winners in history. Boyfriends and so-called friends attached themselves to her and her winnings almost immediately. Within a few short years, most of the money was gone, spent on gifts and favors for people who quietly disappeared the moment the money did too. She later said she wished someone older and wiser had stepped in to protect her from the people who got close to her far too quickly. 8. Suzanne Mullins. Suzanne Mullins won $4.2 million in the Virginia lottery, originally set up to be paid out gradually over many years. She trusted a financial advisor's suggestion involving how to handle her future payments. That advice turned out badly, and she ended up losing a significant portion of her prize money because of it. She eventually took legal action over the situation, but by that point, much of the financial damage had already been done. Her story is a solid reminder that even professional advice deserves a careful second opinion. 9. Sharon Tirabassi. Sharon Tirabassi won about $10 million in Canada back in 2004. She genuinely wanted to help the people she loved, and she trusted her own instincts about who truly deserved that kind of generosity. Loans given to friends and family were rarely, if ever, paid back. Investments suggested by people close to her simply didn't work out the way she was promised. Within roughly 10 years, the money was completely gone, and she found herself renting a home again and working just to support her family. 10. Janet Lee. Janet Lee won $18 million in the Illinois lottery in 1993. She quickly became known for her generosity, donating large sums of money to schools, universities, and various charities. But she also leaned heavily on outside guidance for major decisions, including advice from a psychic she trusted with important financial choices. Combined with constant requests for money from people around her, her fortune disappeared within about a decade, and she eventually had to file for bankruptcy. So what do all 10 of these stories really have in common? None of these winners lost their fortune because they were careless with numbers or simply bad at managing spreadsheets. Every single one of them lost it because at some point they placed their trust in the wrong person at exactly the wrong time. And that's really the biggest lesson hidden inside all of these stories. Money almost never disappears completely on its own. It disappears through people, the advisor who gives advice that benefits themselves more than you, the friend who never pays anything back, the stranger who conveniently shows up the moment your name starts making headlines. Real protection after a big win isn't only about guarding a bank account balance. It's about being patient, staying alert, and being a little more careful about exactly who you let get close to you once life-changing money enters the picture. If there's one single thing to take away from these 10 stories, it's this. Sudden wealth doesn't just test how good you are with money, it tests your judgment about the people around you. And for a lot of winners, that turned out to be the hardest test of all. One more thing worth remembering, almost none of these winners saw the danger coming in advance. That's exactly why experts often recommend a simple rule after any big financial windfall. Slow down before trusting anyone with major decisions, no matter how close they seem, and let a neutral, qualified professional double-check any advice before money actually changes hands. It's a small habit, but based on these 10 stories, it might be the one habit that matters most.